folks, Ariel over here at Nyth, where today I want to cover one of the very few maintenance things that I have had to do in my tiny house over the years, and that is replace the water pump. If you are interested in more details on my water system, I'll try to remember to link down below, but if I forget, just Google Nyth water and I'm sure it'll pull up the video where I cover that, and you can find out about that. But my whole water system is internal to my tiny house. There's a tank back in this corner under the sink drain board there where all the water comes from that goes to the faucet and so on. It does have to be pumped because that is, you know, lower than this, and for there to be any water pressure coming out of this, or if I was going to use the shower water pressure coming out of that, it would need a pump. My pump looks like this. Well, this is a brand new one. These are an RV water pump. That is what is used in many tiny houses and in pretty much every RV. So if you've ever had one of those or rented one or something, you're probably familiar with that. And it does make a noise. Not barely. When I turn it, so that's the breaker for it. Hear it running. It should not be running just randomly. It should only kick on when I want to fill something. And it should shut off the second I close that faucet. It should not be running that long afterwards. That is happening because eventually the seals on this that pump the water, which are all inside this black part here, wear out over time, and they just are not providing good suction anymore. Now mine is worn enough. It's been wearing out for a while. That's why I had the breaker off, because if I'm just working or making a video or sleeping or whatever, that it will cycle on because it's completely depressurized and it thinks the water is being asked for, and it will make that noise, which is kind of annoying. And if you guys were gonna say, oh man, I'm sure glad that my water pump isn't that noisy, I couldn't take that noise every time I turned on a faucet, just beware that your pump is probably far noisier. If you're not in a tiny house or an RV with an internal water pump like this, you're probably either on a well where there is a pump in the well, it's just underground and some distance from your house, not usually in your kitchen. It's much, much louder. You just can't hear it nearly as well because of those things. Or you're on some kind of city water system where there's a giant pumping station that is probably actually very loud. It's just not in your house, and it's maybe miles from your house, so again, you don't hear it. So water pumps do make noise. This one just makes that noise that you can hear here because it is small and it is inside my house. So I've gotten many more months out of it by just flipping the breaker off when I'm not using it and flipping it on when I am using it. But it's getting gradually worse as things wear more, and that's why I get that long, run after it's shut off when it should be off. And that just uses more power and so on. So it's at the point where I need to replace it. I have done this, I believe this is the third water pump now in my house. And so that's one of the cons, I guess, of having an RV water pump. They are actually designed for RV use, which is a recreational vehicle, and most people are only spending, a couple days or a week or two or whatever at a time in them. They're not really intended to be lived in full time, so nobody is making this pump anticipating that you will be using this as a full-time appliance in a house that somebody is living in full-time and doing a lot of dishes, as I do because I cook a lot. So that's just one detraction from them. I don't know of any other good option. I've spoken to some RV sales, RV repair guys. The first two times actually that this was replaced, I had a repairman come and do it, and then I realized how simple it was, and so I have done it myself since. But he was not aware. This is the best model he's aware of in many decades of working with RVs and such. This is a SureFlow. This is model number 20885541444, and I'll link down below to this one. This was his recommendation. I had another SureFlow one before that he thought wasn't quite as high quality. He thought this was the best one in his experience. So this is the one that I have been using since, but they still eventually wear out. So there's the intro. What we're going to do is replace it. Now to do that, we have to get to it, which this is one of the things that can be a little fun in a tiny house, because where it is back here with the water tank. So to do that, we gotta move the burley, gotta move the rug on the floor, beep beep, oh boy. And then we actually have to move the refrigerator. which, as you can probably tell, has to be slid kind of slowly out because it is very snug in that spot it goes in. I actually need it out just a little further. That should do the trick. Now the cord's plenty long, it's still plugged in, still running. Now I'm going to crawl back there, actually with a flashlight. You do want to, if you're going to do something like this, try to make sure you have the tools you need, because the only way to get back there, because this occupies the entire walkway, is to be a bit acrobatic. I realize why the little RV repair guy, because they tend to have small spaces like tiny houses, was a very small gentleman. Probably helps with everything in his line of work. So that's how I get back here. Let me show you what we've got back here. Okay, so we're behind the fridge. And in this hole, which is lit up in there from, there's actually a heat lamp back in there that I could turn on if I need to keep my water from freezing. I have not needed it for that, but it is handy that it makes light under there when I need to do this. So what you're looking at there in the foreground is the old water pump. That's the power cord for the fridge. This is the hot and cold water lines which go to the shower, which is right on that side of the wall. And the big white thing you're looking at is the actual insulation around the water tank itself. If you can see there where the cold water comes in, and so on. So what we've got to do is take this out. Now this is a space where it's snug enough, it's hard to show everything. First I'm actually going to unplug the fridge just so that cord's out of the way of the camera. It's not going to be hurt by being off for a minute. And get my little floodlight in here too, if I can do this while I hold the camera. So I don't want water to go flooding everywhere when I turn this off. So first I'm going to close the valve right there. You can now see that little valve is crossways. That's the standard plumbing thing for being closed. Inline would be open, crossways is closed. So, and up there, I couldn't do it with my arm in the way, but you can see there's the same valve for hot water. So those are both closed. We're going to run out a little bit of the remainder there. You can hear how that's making the pump sound funny. There we go. So that has just eliminated most of the water in our lines, so we don't get too much of a mess when undoing this. Now all I need to do is unscrew this, and there's one on the other side where the water comes and goes, and then unwire these connections right here. There's two of them. There's a red and black wire on the pump, which is a nice marking for which goes to which. These two wires in the house did not have a marking on them, and the first time I did this, I unthinkingly connected both at once and then had to actually call a electrician friend with a tester so that I didn't wire it backwards to tell me which was the which on the ground and the live. And so now it is marked. You can see my red tape on there, so I know which one red is going to and which one black is going to. Now the breaker is also off to the water pump after draining that out. You can see how I'm going to get a few drips of water there, and I just soak that up with a rag. It's not possible to get quite every drop out and drained, and I'm going to get a few on the other side as well. Okay, now the pump is disconnected from everything except this little wood block on a couple layers of foam, which is to help reduce that vibration noise when it's running. So I need to pull these out of there. Okay, now you can see I've actually got the old pump out here. I just couldn't unscrew that with the camera in my way. The screws go through these little rubber feet, which hold it onto a wooden block, which sits on that couple layers of rubber foamy matting that you saw, and that's all just to help reduce the total noise it makes when it vibrates. So that's all apart. This is our old pump, same model as the new one. Here is our new pump. Looks all the same. So it is going to go back in the exact same way as the old one. Now I can actually get my screws started in here while I'm up here and have a little more room to work than in that hole. Because they're just going, see these little rubber feet are what helps cushion that frame. Again, that's just for sound control. So the rubber's pretty snug. You kind of got to get the screw going through the rubber before you can line it back up with the hole on the wood block itself. Okay, those screws are just started into the wood. Now before I get it screwed back in there, I have never gotten a dud pump, but I am going to hook it back up and make sure that it's actually running and working before I screw the whole thing completely back in place. So we're going back into the little hole. Oh, and these just are the little covers over the water in and out spouts. So here we go. And I actually misspoke earlier. This is the hot water tank. That's why there's a hot and a cold line. The actual main water tank is under this floor that this is sitting on. Just to clarify, let's make sure we don't have our wires pinched under there. We can screw the two water valves back on, get that to line up. And the other side. Okay, that would be the water connected. Now here's where it's important to know which end is which. My red tape is going to my red wire. So these are just going to twist together. There is a newer model of this pump that has a quick connect that just has a little thingy that pops in and on and off. But that was actually what I had when it first failed. And I switched to this because, like I said, my original RV repair guy thought this was a slightly more, the older model was a slightly more durable and better pump overall. So that is why I don't have the quick connect one, but I am aware that it's out there and you might have that yourself. Okie doke. Now I'm going to flip the breaker back on and we're going to give it water. So you gotta open these two valves again. There's water coming to the pump and it's powered up, it's just not bolted down. Let's turn the breaker on. Okay, there you could hear how it sucked water and it filled those pipes. Now if I run cold water, or hot water, it's working. So now we just got to anchor it back down tight. Okie doke. There is our old pump. And the new one is all installed. And you just get back to being a little bit of an acrobat to get back out of the hole. And you're just going to wiggle this back into place. Oops, and I forgot to plug it in while I was back there where I could reach the outlet. Let's see if I can pull this up. There we go. There we go. As you can see, that is a very snug fit. So I had the breaker back off while I was getting that all screwed down tight again. But now I get water, it shuts off, and it should not be cycling when nobody's touching the faucet. So that's how you replace an RV water pump in at least my tiny house. It's probably similar in others, and other than the awkwardness of getting to it physically, it's really not very complicated. So hopefully that's helpful if you've ever wondered what mine is set up like, or if you've ever had a need to replace a water pump. It involves a little bit of crawling around in snug corners, but as long as you can do that, you don't need to call a repairman. There's nothing complicated other than a basic ability to, you know, close off water lines, screw it on and off some hoses, and put some screws in and out to anchor it down and release it and put it back down. Hopefully that is helpful if you've ever had water pump issues in your tiny house or RV, or just wondered how they work. Hi folks, Ariel over here. Thanks for spending some of your valuable time watching these videos. Hopefully you found something beautiful, educational, interesting, peaceful, relaxing, or useful while you were here. If so, find more videos here, subscribe so you don't miss any updates, and if you like what you found here, feel free to like and share away so that others can benefit as well. You all have a wonderful day.